Just saying Louis doesn't understand social distancing, so he goes up like wanting to cuddle everything, and particularly any babies younger than him.
Princess Catherine allegedly did something the palace almost never allows. According to reports, she looked at the official statement her advisors prepared, pushed it aside, and chose to speak in her own words instead. The reason reportedly comes down to one sentence her 4-year-old son said to her in private: "Stay with me, because the ending here is not what the headlines told you." For weeks, royal watchers asked the same question. Why did Prince Louis keep vanishing from the schedule? Engagements were reportedly rearranged again and again with zero explanation. That silence, sources suggest, was intentional. Prince William allegedly pushed for it from the start, believing privacy was the only way to shield his youngest son from permanent scrutiny. Catherine reportedly agreed at first, but somewhere in those quiet weeks, she apparently began noticing something far more troubling. Louis had allegedly started believing his condition was being hidden because the family felt ashamed of it. That one detail is reportedly what changed everything. Here's how the timeline is said to have unfolded. Louis had allegedly been recovering from complications tied to a serious respiratory illness, something the family reportedly assumed at first was ordinary and seasonal. Then, according to insiders, the tiredness refused to lift. He reportedly pushed his breakfast away without a word, then pointed to his chest and told his father he was simply too tired to eat. The real turning point is said to have happened during a private rehearsal at Windsor. Midway through the morning, he allegedly stopped walking, reached for his mother's hand, and whispered that he couldn't catch his breath. Catherine reportedly knelt beside him instantly and felt how cold his fingers had gone. William is said to have cleared the room of everyone except the medical team and had George and Charlotte moved elsewhere so neither child would witness their brother struggling. That single moment reportedly changed the entire household. William allegedly insisted every engagement involving Louis be suspended, believing one missed ceremony mattered far less than his son's health. Senior aides are said to have warned that repeated, unexplained absences would eventually invite speculation. William refused to budge. He would not let his frightened son become a public storyline while still scared and uncertain. What nobody fully clocked at the time was that the silence wasn't only protecting Louis. According to people close to the family, it was quietly reshaping all 3 children. George, as the eldest, allegedly felt pressure to stay composed for everyone else. One night, he reportedly asked his father whether a younger sibling could become seriously unwell without anyone outside the family ever finding out. He wasn't asking about palace protocol. He was allegedly asking whether silence meant something was dangerously wrong. Charlotte, meanwhile, is said to have noticed every closed door and every dropped voice. She reportedly started leaving handwritten jokes beside Louis's bed, apparently because she'd worked out that even brief laughter brought her brother back to himself. When she overheard staff discussing growing public attention, she allegedly asked her mother if strangers were now worried about her brother too, and whether Louis would have to answer all of them. Questions no child should reportedly have to sit with alone. Catherine, according to those close to her, was carrying an entirely separate weight. She reassured Charlotte that recovery takes time, all while hiding how little sleep she herself had gotten. She was allegedly burying her worst fears to protect William, and he was doing the same to protect her. Their bond reportedly stayed solid, but exhaustion was slowly turning quiet kindness into guarded distance. And in the middle of it all was Louis, too young to understand royal protocol, but apparently old enough to read the fear on every face around him. The disagreement between Catherine and William reportedly reached its breaking point one night after the children had gone to sleep. She placed her own handwritten pages in front of him, beside the polished palace-approved draft. To Catherine, that official version allegedly felt hollow, describing recovery without ever admitting there had been real fear. William read the opening line and reportedly shook his head, reminding her that one public statement could be replayed and dissected for years. His voice is said to have risen, then stopped. The anger, according to insiders, was fear wearing a different face. Catherine reportedly didn't back down. She told William what she believed was actually happening. Louis thought his condition was being hidden because the family was ashamed of it. She pointed out that George now watched every closed door with worry, and Charlotte was leaving jokes beside a sickbed because it was the only comfort she knew how to give. The silence wasn't protecting one child anymore. It was shaping all three. Then she reportedly told him something that broke straight through his composure. Louis had allegedly made a request of his own. He wanted to thank the medical staff who had made him feel safe. He wanted George and Charlotte to know their help had mattered to him. And more than anything else, he apparently did not want people thinking he had disappeared because he wasn't brave enough. Long was said to have sat down, covered his face, and admitted his choices hadn't only been about privacy. They had also been driven by his own fear, for a future king trained his entire life to hold composure in public. That is reportedly about as raw as it gets behind closed doors. Together, they reportedly agreed on a boundary. Catherine could speak publicly, but she would protect every medical detail while acknowledging what the family had genuinely been through. There was still one final approval needed, and that authority belonged to King Charles. According to palace sources, Charles read the draft twice in silence. When he reached the line describing a child mistaking privacy for shame, he reportedly removed his glasses and set them down. Royal duty, insiders say, often teaches restraint long before children understand what that restraint costs them. When William arrived, Charles allegedly asked one question: did this statement truly serve Louis, or did it simply ease the fear carried by the adults around him? Officials had reportedly prepared a softer version, but it removed Louis's request to thank the people who had supported him. Charles is said to have rejected it outright, reasoning that a statement stripped of the child's own meaning would protect the institution while failing the person at its center. He allegedly gave approval on one condition: Louis had to hear every word before the recording was released. Catherine reportedly read the final version to her son in private. Louis listened with unusual seriousness, then corrected one line himself. He didn't want her saying he was merely doing better. He wanted the world to know he was getting strong again. She changed it immediately. Charles is said to have approved the revised wording with a handwritten note stating that truth delivered with restraint protects the crown more honestly than silence ever could. The recording was released. The reaction was reportedly immediate and by most accounts overwhelming. Headlines multiplied within hours and coverage shifted tone almost instantly. Broadcasters allegedly began building timelines out of Louis's earlier absences, lining them up against Catherine's new statement. One commentator reportedly paused old footage just to study the boy's expression. William is said to have switched off the television, insisting his son's recovery would not become entertainment. Longth. But outside the palace gates, something else was apparently unfolding. Families reportedly began leaving handwritten blue stars along the public barrier at Windsor, each one carrying the same three words Louis had chosen: getting strong again. The stars are said to have multiplied by the day. One newspaper placed Catherine's calm expression on its front page, beneath the words, "A mother's voice," with Louis's own phrase printed below it. Recovery framed as courage rather than weakness. Some commentators reportedly kept pushing for more answers, questioning why the silence had lasted so long. Palace officials reportedly held their ground, stating that a child's health was never public property. When one phrase from the recording sparked fresh speculation, advisors apparently pushed for a follow-up clarification. Catherine allegedly refused, saying that explaining every frightening detail would betray the exact privacy the family had fought to protect. But according to those closest to the family, the real turning point didn't happen anywhere near a camera. William reportedly found Louis sitting quietly and alone after the announcement went out. He skipped the chair beside his son and sat on the floor instead, level with him, then asked one simple question: how did it feel now that people finally knew? Louis hesitated before answering. He reportedly said he'd noticed his father stop talking about royal events whenever he walked into a room. Engagements used to sound exciting to him. During his recovery, those conversations apparently vanished completely, and Louis quietly began believing everyone assumed he'd never be strong enough to attend one again. William had allegedly erased every mention of duty to shield his son from pressure, but in doing so had made Louis feel erased from his own future. That is apparently the real problem with silence. You cannot always control what it ends up saying. Then, according to the account that later circulated within the family, Lewis told his father something William had never known. During the hardest week, he had reportedly heard his father crying quietly outside his bedroom door and had pretended to be asleep because he didn't know how to comfort him. That confession is said to have broken the last of William's composure. He reportedly pulled his son close and told him bravery was never about feeling no fear. It meant speaking honestly, even when silence would have been easier. Lewis held on to him, then made a decision entirely of his own. He wanted to return gradually, not through a grand public ceremony, but at a small family event with George and Charlotte standing beside him. Catherine is said to have walked in just as the moment ended. One look at William, one look at Louis, and she understood something had shifted for good. There would be no statement, no staged appearance, no pressure until Lewis felt ready on his own terms. His first public return allegedly happened at a small community event supporting local children. No advanced publicity, no formal speech, no expectation that he performed for anyone. Louis reportedly paused before walking inside. Charlotte took one of his hands, George took the other. Catherine apparently didn't push him forward and didn't hide his hesitation either. She simply waited. Then the three children walked through the doorway together. Watching them, William is said to have finally understood something. Recovery was never about rebuilding the image that existed before the illness. It was about building an entirely new sense of safety. He had once measured privacy by how much the family kept hidden. He reportedly came to understand that silence can protect a child's body while still leaving him completely alone emotionally. Catherine, meanwhile, apparently learned the opposite lesson. Honesty could free Louis from shame, but it could never become an excuse to expose every private medical detail. That is reportedly exactly why she chose a personal recorded statement, honest enough to acknowledge the truth, careful enough to protect the boundaries her son still needed. Charles later remarked, according to insiders, that the monarchy had not been weakened by any of this. If anything, he believed it had grown stronger by facing something painful without turning it into spectacle. When Louis finished that first event and returned to his parents, he reportedly didn't ask whether he'd be allowed to attend another one. He simply asked when he could come back. That question is reportedly considered the real turning point of the story. Catherine later received a photograph of the blue stars left outside Windsor and pressed her fingers gently against one message written by another child. She allegedly asked that the display be preserved quietly for Lewis. Lewis himself reportedly chose one star to keep beside his bed. It read, "You were brave, even when you were resting. There was no campaign afterward, no celebratory photo opportunity, no rushed public comeback." According to those familiar with the family's thinking, Catherine's decision was never about rebellion and never about publicity. It was reportedly a mother correcting a story that fear had quietly written and giving her son permission to see himself as recovering, not fragile. The family had spent months apparently believing love meant building walls around him. They came out the other side, according to insiders, understanding that real protection also means listening, honesty, and admitting fear out loud when it matters most. The silence had reportedly done its job. Then compassion required it to end. Princess Catherine allegedly broke it so her son would never mistake a private struggle for shame. And when Louis walked in between George and Charlotte, not carried, not rushed, not shielded, the fear no longer controlled the story. He did. If you want more deep dives like this one into what's allegedly happening behind palace walls, subscribe now because the next story is even harder to believe.